Hello, lovely learners. So we will continue with our videos, and lesson 4 is in our grammar C subjects is participles. Now, participles, I'm sure you haven't heard of this topic before, but this can be associated with the perfect tenses and the subject clauses and subordinates later we'll talk about, but it can also be talked about as a separate subject, and understanding it is honestly very important, and it will help you be a better writer. Your writing will improve and your sentences will give meaning in a shorter form, which is usually what most writers wish to do. Alright, so stay with me and try to follow up. This lesson will require some practice from you for sure, but I have trust in you and I'm sure you will be able to handle it, okay? So as usual, we'll try by describing what participles are. So participles are words that are partially an adjective and partially a verb. This will be clarified later. The reason they are partially a verb and partially an adjective is that they are derived from verbs, but they also look like an adjective. Okay? How do we construct them? How do we create them? They are created, as I just mentioned, from the verbs. All right, from the verbs we have heard of, from all of them. All right, not all of them, literally. Probably there are. Well, not sure really, but from most of them, it's possible to create them from most of them. As I mentioned before, they're extremely useful in writing. Okay, in writing, and they help you make your documents appear more professional and shorter. Okay, so let's go on and try to get it. Now there are many types, different categories of types of participles. I'll follow up with this type, but there is also what is called the present participle, the past participle, and the perfect participle, but I'll not categorize it that way. I'll simply put it in the adjective adverb way. So we have participles used as adjectives and participles used as adverbs, but you don't need to understand the difference between these two. It will get harder and confusing to you, but it is basically the same thing, almost. The difference is only when you have to recognize it, which one it is, and it's not really a part of the learning, I suppose. My learning philosophy is that you'll be able to do it. If you are able to create it and use it, you really don't need to know how to differentiate between those, really. So I don't mind you not knowing this, and I'm sure nobody would, but you need to understand what they are, okay? But I'll start simple. First of all, and this is completely different from what I just talked about, I'll just give you a hint about what adjectives are, okay? So, simple adjectives of the language, okay? English language has many adjectives, right? Beautiful, ugly, big, small, fat, thin, slim, closed, opened, all of these adjectives we have in the language. But there's also another way of creating simple adjectives, right? And it is when you use a verb, okay? Use a verb, you either add ing to it or ed to it, okay? Depending on the ending of the verb. So if you have an e, you only add a d, and then you should be able to know that. You have already studied that from past simple and present continuous or present progressive. My aim here is that you either add ed to the verb or you either add ing to it. You make it progressive. Those types of adjectives have their own uses, okay? So if you add ed the work is done on the noun you have, but if you add ing, uh, then the work is done by your subject, okay, or your noun. So I'll explain that when we'll get into it. Let's start from the first one. If we have the verb use, okay, if we have the verb use, when we add d to it, or ed in this case, for example, look at this example. They used mobile. What does that mean? The used mobile means somebody used this mobile, right? This mobile is being used in something, correct? So, for example, I give you a sentence. The police said the used mobile for the crime was an iPhone, for example. Okay, so the used. This mobile was used by something. In this case, it looks like the passive form, right? So let's go to create, right? The created program. So this is almost the object, the noun that has been described by the adjective is almost an object, right? So the created program, somebody else, a subject created it, right? In here as well, right? A subject used it when we say the used mobile, right? So we can create the adjective, the created program, right? Using the verb break. I'm making it the past participle, so this is a past participle form of it. It has become broken window, right? So for example, I have the broken window, right? The broken window means somebody, a subject, broke the window, and the window is the victim, it's the object. Work has been done on it, right? Something has happened to it. This is when I add ing. What about excuse me. This is when I add make it the past participle, right? The third form. So break, broke, broken, right? Use, used, right? The third form. Create, created, created. What about when I add ing? When I say the breaking news, what does this mean? In this case, the news is my subject, right? It's a noun that does the thing. The breaking news is the news that quotes breaks you, right? It shocks you. So this is the subject of the sentence. What about heat, right? Heat, when you add ing to it, you say the heating machine, right? When you say the heating machine, it means you have a machine because you have ing. This is a subject. So the doer, so the machine heats things because it's called a heating machine. But when we say the heated machine, then the machine is the object. It has been described by heated, but it is the object because heated machine, the machine is being heated by something else, probably by being overused or by anything there is, but by another machine, probably by a heating machine. It doesn't really matter, but the main idea is that when you add ing to it, then your described noun is the doer, it's the subject. But when you add ed to it, or you make it a past participle, then this is become the object, right? The last one is open, right? The last one is open. When we say the opened door, right? This is my object. Some work has been done on it, so somebody else opens the window, right? The door, sorry. The door is open, but somebody else opened it. But when you say the opening ceremony, right, this is a little bit different. But this ceremony opens something for us. So this is a subject. Now this is supposed to be simple. With practice, you usually learn this. There's a little bit action in your adjective, right? That's why it's a little bit different than simple adjectives like beautiful, ugly, big, small, empty, full. I don't know, whatever you have to say, open, close. But this is different from participles. That's our subject. But this should be understood, okay? Because it's a very important topic. So what about participles? Participles are, as I already described to you, partially verbs and partially adjectives, right? So I'll explain to you participles when they are used in the beginning of a sentence, okay? In the beginning of a sentence. So they are again verbs that take ing or ed, participles, right? It's third participle, ing or ed into them, and the meaning of the sentence changes, and they look like both a noun and an adjective, okay? So let's look at this example and I'll explain the meaning to you. Starting the car, Marie tightened the seatbelt, right? Starting the car, initiating, igniting the car. Marie, in this case, tightened the seatbelt. What does this mean? It means while Marie was starting the car, Marie tightened the seatbelt. But we ignore this. We ignore while Marie was starting the car, right? Maria or she tightened the seatbelt. We ignore all of this and we start from starting the car. That is the usage of my participle. What is important about it is that when it is used at the beginning of a sentence, we need a comma after the first phrase or the first clause is ended. It's not a sentence, okay? It's not a complete sentence. It's a fragment. And the implied subject, the subject of the second sentence, should always be the same as the subject of the first one. Now, the subject of the first one is missing, but it is being implied. Implied means it's not there, but we all know what it is. Starting the car, Marie. It's already Marie, right? So, because this is my subject, the subject of my second sentence, I have an ing here, right? Just like the simple adjectives I already talked about. That's why I talked about it. It's very similar to our topic. Standing near the door, Amir left the room first. So it is like saying, because Amir was standing near the door, Amir left the room first, right? But because it is implied, the subject and my verb to be is implied, I ignore it completely and I start from my verb and I add ing to it. It's between a noun, no, it's between a verb and an adjective. It's almost both of them actually. So my subject is still the same. It's still Amir. Standing near the door refers back to Amir, describes Amir. That's why it's called an adjective, almost. And I have to notice my comma here. My third example is slapped by his own mother. Slapped means just being hit in the face. Slapped by his own mother. Dareen felt miserable, right? He felt sad, miserable, right? Miserable. It just means sad, okay? Or depressing, or depressed actually. So what about this example? We have the comma because we are using the participle at the beginning of the sentence. That much is clear. But in this case, as you notice, I don't have ing anymore. What do I have instead? I have ed. What does the ed imply? What does it tell me? It tells me that the subject of my second sentence, even though it is the same as the subject of this one, right? Dareen is being slapped by his own mother, but it is being used as an object, right? As an object, because his mom slapped Dareen. So this is my object. That's why I have an ed here, okay? And the meaning implies it better. But in these two cases, as you notice, Maria tightened the seatbelt. He's the subject of the sentence, but he's also the subject here, because he started the car, or she started the car. In my second example as well, Amir was standing near the door, right? But in this case, even though Dareen was slapped by his own mother, because it's an object here, then I have to use the ed form of my participle, okay? So I hope this is clear, but you require try to write a couple of sentences, okay? Try to write it. You will learn it better, okay? Try to use it and make people around you check it for you, or email it to me. I'll check it for you, and then you can understand it better, hopefully. My next slide, when it's used in the middle, so not in the beginning anymore. This time it's used in the middle, okay? So I have two examples. So the first one says, grammar is not easy, meaning you need to study and practice more, right? So now I'll talk about this when we talk about relative clause later, but it is used instead of saying which means, okay? So I ignore this. Instead of that, I use this, right? Meaning. You see this a lot, and the reason it has an ing again is because the grammar is the subject of both sentences. This part of the sentence and this part of the sentence, alright? Look at my second example. Mr. Jeff, known for his sense of humor, cracked a funny joke in class. So cracked a funny joke means told a funny joke, okay? It's an informal way of saying it almost, okay? So Mr. Jeff, noun. This is my participle, noun. But this one does not take the ing form, right? It takes the ed form or the past participle form, right? So noun, now, noun, noun, right? It changes like that. So why is it not ing? Why is it the past participle form? Because Mr. Jeff is the object of this sentence, okay? He's being used as the object of this sentence, and you should understand that I am actually omitting who is, right? Who is noun, right? Mr. Jeff, who is known for his sense of humor, cracked a funny joke in class. But because my subjunctive here is who, and I also have a to be verb, I can completely ignore or omit or delete both of them and be good with my sentence. Okay, this sentence is shorter first. This one is also shorter because I'm ignoring this part. It is shorter and it's also more professional, as I indicated in the beginning. Okay, so let me give you a couple of more examples and finish the lecture. Okay, so examples, I have 5 of them. Okay, the first one says, the student talking to Dr. Jasmine is my cousin, right? So it is also like the student who is talking to Dr. Jasmine, right? The student who is talking to. But because my relative clause has who in it, and it is also the subject of both sentences, plus I have a to be verb, I can ignore that part completely and still have a meaningful sentence. Okay, so this is my participle here. I have the ing form because the student is the subject of both sentences, and the student, which is my participle, describes the talking, which is my participle, describes the student, which is the name right before it, right? This is usually how it is, okay? So what I'm trying to tell you here is that the student who is talking to Dr. Jasmine is my cousin. I don't have commas here and there because I might have a couple of students and I'm not sure which one it is, so it is a descriptive clause to the sentence, which means I need the comma to be there. How about my second sentence? I have it in the beginning, so this one was in the middle, this one is in the beginning, right? Running after Messi, Ramos tackled him and got a yellow card. Tackle, it means he made a foul, okay? Google it, but it almost means he made a foul, right? He ran under his feet and made him fall on the ground, okay? So, running after Messi, Ramos tackled him and got a yellow card. So Ramos is the subject of the second sentence. He is also the implied subject of the first sentence because he's subject in both sentences because he was running after Messi. Messi is the object. We have the ing form of it because he's the subject of both sentences, okay? Ruined by ISIS, Mosul will need a lot of money for reparation, right? To be repaired. That's what I'm trying to say. So, ruined by ISIS. I have the ed form. Why do I have the ed form? Because Mosul, even though it's the subject of the second sentence, it will become the object of the first phrase. Ruined by ISIS is Mosul. So ISIS ruined Mosul. Ruined means destroyed, okay? Destroyed. So because it is the object of my first sentence, then I take the ed form, okay? Try to come up with a couple of examples and send them to me. I'll try to check them for you and give you feedback, hopefully. My fourth example, taught by a bad teacher, Mani did not learn Farsi well, right? Taught by a bad teacher. So Mani is the subject of my second sentence, right? But he is the object of my first sentence, right? Usually you see this by here, which implies that's the object because you have a passive form. Because in the first sentence, if you take Mani back to the first sentence, the meaning tells you that a bad teacher taught Mani. So Mani comes after the verb, it makes it an object, and because it's an object, we take the past participle form, the ed form, not the ing form, right? So that should be clear to understand. My last example is, it's also in the middle of a sentence, right? So it's in the middle. So the student, we have a verb. The verb has taken the form, the ed form or the past participle form. The student, given the chance to speak, is very clever, right? So in this case, I'm describing a student to be very clever, right? And given describes the noun student, right? I'm saying given, not giving the chance, because the student is an object to the verb give. Somebody else gave the chance to the student to talk. Maybe the principal of the school, or the boss, or the boss of the school, or another student. Somebody else gave him the chance because he is or she is the object of that. So I'll give the ed form of it. So this subject, I understand, is a little bit confusing. You see, as an object, it's an adjective using the ing form. It's a little bit confusing, but it's okay if you practice it a little bit, as I have stressed it here. If you practice a little bit for me and try to use a couple of examples and come up with a couple of mistakes, I'm sure you will be alright with it, okay? So practice and watch a couple of more videos to get a taste of how the topic is, and try to use it in your writing, try to use it in your speaking, okay? So combine all these skills together and hopefully learn, alright? So thank you for using Kurferbun again, and I hope you will practice and learn, alright students? Bye bye for now.